Good day everyone. We present to you the introduction of Fortran. Here we have 8 outlines. The first is introduction, Fortran history, development of Fortran, facts and goals, language elements, structure and syntaxes, advantages and disadvantages, and reference. The first is the introduction. Fortran is a computer programming language that is extensively used in numerical scientific computing. So ang Fortran kuno nga program ginagamit lang gid na siya sa mga numerical o mga scientific nga mga computation. Even Fortran has declined in popularity over the years, it still has a strong user base with scientific programmers and is also used in organizations such as weather forecasters, financial trading, and engineering simulation. So even kung ang Fortran gaka-deteriorate or decline, so times goes by. Pero laban ko nung gagamit siya mga weather forecasters, financial trading, kag engineering simulation. Fortran is a compiled language, or more specifically, it is compiled ahead of time. Fortran history. Fortran is one of the oldest computer languages. So ang Fortran kuno is one of the pinakadugay ng mga computer languages or mga tigulang. Before Fortran, programs were written in assembly language and very tedious to say the least. So antes ko isang program ay aram na program ng iba no, pero ginabutang siya sa assembly language kag mga palitit kayo kuno. So created by John Backus and released in 1957, designed for scientific and engineering computations. Ginhimo ni siya ni John Backus sa year na 1957 kag design lagi siya para kuno sa scientific kag engineering computations. Program written on a specially formatted green sheet then entered as punch cards. So ang programa no nga paghimo niya first niya gimbutang siya sa green sheet kag ginsulod sa may punch cards paggamit. The first Fortran program ran on the IBM 704 vacuum tube computer. So makita na sa next slide. Makita na siya nato sa next slide. So are the inventor of Fortran, si John Backus, nga ginpalayaw gid siya nga the father of Fortran. He is an American scientific engineer. So siya gini yung nagpasimuno og nagsugod isang Fortran. So amo ni siya gali the first Fortran program on IBM 704. So diri gid siya gin start to pag-program sa Fortran sa iya. So continue man tagyapon. Fortran was originally named after the contraction of formula translation, highlighting Fortran's origins as a language designed specifically for mathematical calculations. So ang Fortran kuno may original na ganyan name nga tawag siya is formula translation. So specialized siya sa mathematical mga calculations. Fortran was developed in the early 1950s and the first ever Fortran program ran in 1954. Making Fortran fairly unusual among programming languages and that it predates the modern transistor computer. So kumbaga, grabe no, pag 1950s siya nagsugod. Pero natapos nila sa 1954. So 4 years gid nga pag run kag develop nila until nag-successful sila mga nalalaban nila ang Fortran. So let's go to the development of Fortran. One of the oldest programming languages, the Fortran was developed by a team of programmers at IBM led by John Backus. So ginilidiga po ng mga upod, may upod siya, pero siya galit si John Backus. And it was the first published in 1957. The name of Fortran is an acronym for Formula for, and translation is Tran. So para mag-combine sila is Fortran because it was designed to allow easy translation of math formulas into code. So amo na yung meaning para makapos lang ko ng math formula para sa code. Often referred to as a scientific language, Fortran was the first high-level language using the first compiler ever developed. Prior to the development of Fortran, computer programmers were required to program in machine assembly code, which was extremely difficult and time-consuming task, not to mention the dreadful chore of debugging the code. Makon mo no, budla-budlay kaya ano sa una sa Fortran. Palagan kay time consuming do grabe ko ng oras nga ma-take para complete mo lang isa ka program. Since Fortran was so much easier to code, programmers were able to write programs 500 faster than before. While execution efficiency was only reduced by 20%, this was allowed them to focus more on the problem-solving aspects of a problem and less on coding. So, amo man ang result sa Fortran 500 faster dahil kumpara mo sa antes sa iya. Fortran was so innovative not only because it was the first high-level language, but also because of its compiler, which is credited as giving rise to the branch of the computer science now known as a compiler theory. So, ang Fortran kuno innovative, so damo di siya bigla magamitan mapuslan niya kit tungod sa iya compiler, magamit niya kit lang. Kumbaga do versatile kaayo. Despite this standardization, a few years later, various new dialects began to surface again, requiring the Standards Association review the language again. This version is known as Fortran 77. This version was released in 1978. It was called the 77 because the association began its review in 1977. So, kumbaga, naghimo siya sa Fortran 1977 pero na-release siya sa 1978 with several new features. Some of the more notable properties were new error handling methods and etc. And I'm Raymond Tadifa, and I'm passing the next topic to my groupmate.
Josmar Nacional, and I'm gonna present the next topic. Wait. So, facts and goals. To be able to write simple Fortran programs. Well, kung mag-obra to dito na yung antis ka mo pa-intindi yun kung anong ibala ang Fortran nga coding or programming is we have kinalan kita magsulat or makakabalo sa simple Fortran nga code. And the next is to understand the modify existing Fortran code. Bali, i-explain ko karon kung paano nila naparan ang mga na-existing Fortran code. And the third is enable the rapid writing of computer programs that run nearly as efficient as programs that had been laboriously hand-coded in machine language. To manage programming project with makefiles is a simple special file containing shell commands that you create and a file that tells the make utility what to do. The next is language elements. Fortran has a set of rules used to determine whether a program is valid and can be understood by computer, a bit like a human language. The combination of keywords and characters that are used to form Fortran programs are usually referred to as the language syntax. A Fortran program is made of a collection of program units like main program, modules, and external subprograms or procedure. Well, siyempre, ang isa ka program, mayara magituod nga isa ka rules nga makadetermine whether the program is valid. Kung magabla kung magparan kasi isa ka program, kinahanglan di ba i-check na kung valid or hindi or marana sa or ma-readable magida sa or hindi, di ba? The next is here. We need to know the language elements of the basic character set of Fortran contains. Well, it's a basic the letters uppercase A to Z and the lowercase a to z, the digits 0 to number 9, the underscore character, the special characters like equals, column, plus, blank, minus, and times, and etc. And also, tokens are made of characters in the basic character set. A token could be a keyword, an identifier, a constant, a string literal, or a symbol. Well, kung mag-code ta, kinahanglan natin nga first nga matun-an ang isa ka set of characters ng isa ka Fortran nga language. Next is the structure and syntaxes. Well, this is the formula of our code and the structure of the Fortran program. Each Fortran program consists of a mixture of executable and non-executable statement which must occur in a specific order. So, ang Fortran nga language, mayara sila nga tatlo nga stages. So, antes na mag-code, kinalan kita mayara sa almost all Fortran programs, units is divided into 3. So, that's what I said. The declaration section, amo ni sa ang mag-like ng magbutang ka sa program's name, like title, amo na sa this section consists of a group of non-executable statement at the beginning of the program that define the name of program and the number and types of variables referenced in the programs, which is states that the number one, the declaration section is hindi isa ma-execute, bali daw amo ni sa aton nga intro. And the second one is the execution section. Amo ni sa pinaka-main. Bali amo ni sa ang magiyo. Bali amo ni sa this section consists of none or more statement describing the action to perform by the program. Bali amo ni sa gid ang the action every program gid, bali amo ni ang main gid sang body ka program ka code. And the third is the termination section. Every code bali sa tanan gid niya nga program or languages, may ara gid niya ang kung mag-terminate sa isa ka code na structure na sa ating auto is we have the end. We call it the termination section. This section consists of statement or statements stopping the execution of program and telling the compiler that the program is complete. This stage is the amo ni sa determine kung ma-stop ng isa ka program. Bali kung sa like in other program languages like C++, we call it end class gets. And note that comments may be inserted freely anywhere within, before, or after the program. Okay? Next is the structure, still structure. Balihan mo ni sang tsura sang finished product. Well, the first is the declaration section, which has a program's name and the types of variables and constant. Amo ni mo ibutang mga constant yung mga variables mo sa first nga stages, which called declaration section. And the second one is the execution section. Amo ni pinaka-importante, di ba? As I said earlier, amo ni sa pinaka-importante. Action to be performed by a program. Bali pares bi kung ano lang ginapangaya, amo nang i-times mo. Mga accurate kini sa magwa sa last ng program ang iyang result. And the final is the termination section, or we call it stopping or the ending of the program execution. The next is bali a Fortran program is made of a collection of program units like main program, modules, and external subprograms or procedure. Each program contains one program and may or may not contain other program units. The syntax of the main program is as follow. Bali ang maobra mo sa isa ka program or hindi ka na pwede ka else or para sa iban nga programming language, di ba? Kung magdugang kita maka-end class sa tatuod pero maka-else tabi. Pero sa diri nga Fortran language yun ang lain. Hindi kita pwede ka ma-add sa iban nga program. Bali amo ni sa structural sa program. Miyara sa dapat ang every nga program nga igamit nga dapat miyara isa nga program name. Ang program ini dapat ang mga importante para ma-read gid ng aton nga title sa program. The implicit none, type declaration statement, executable statement, and program name. Bali i-explain this sa next slide. Sige. Next is ang ni sa mga syntax ka actual nga i-code mo para maka ka sa program language, Fortran language. which is a simple program in Fortran. Let's write a program that adds two numbers and prints the result. Dito ni makita kung ano gidya kanami gid nga ano gid ka accurate ang isa ka kanini ka lang amo ni nga language. Well, the program, amo ni nga dapat mi nga lagi ito nga program, amo ni isang title is add numbers. Add numbers, and this simple program adds two numbers. Amo ni isang declare nga amo ni nga imo ta, and the implicit none type declaration, amo ni isang stage 1 ta is the type declaration real column A, comma B, comma result. Amo ni isang aton nga nga which is our first stage, the declaration section and the program's name. Di dapat ang una tagid nga i-code, may ara kita ngalan nga program, and amo ni isang title ta add numbers. And ang ari naman, amo ni isang types of variables and constant, amo ni isang constant ta real column A, comma B, comma and the result. Well, ang second stage na naman is the executable statements, which is A equals 12.0, B equals 15.0, result equals A plus B. While A plus na isa ang 12 kagang 15, te ang magwa ng ano tayo sa print, ang times, comma, the total is result. Bali, amo na isang aton nga stage 2, which is the action to be performed by a program. Bali, amo isang action ang stage 2, ang executable statement, ang A kag ang B. Then ang magwa na sa A plus B. And our third stage is the end program. Well, ang manani sa maka-execute or maka stopping the program or end the program. Okay, when you compile the execute the above program, it produces the following result. The result is 27. 15 plus 12 is 27. This is how accurate the Fortran language is. Okay, do you understand me now? Thank you. Next is take note for this, and this is the real the tutorial of the before we bag-o kita nga mag-program sa isa ka Fortran language, kinahanglan kita maintindihan din ini, which is all Fortran program starts with the keyword program. As I said, ang una tagid nga dapat ibutang sa code naton is program and end with the keyword and program. Amo na bali itong para sa C++, di ba? Kung sa C++ naman, ang una gid naton ibutang, di ba, public class. And ang aton nga end nga di ba, end class. Sa naman sa Fortran is ang una kita nga ibutang dapat program, tapos ang aton nga title sa program. And it ends with dapat end program followed by the name of the program. Okay, the implicit none, you can see in here, implicit none, explain nyo kung ano ang implicit none. The implicit none statement allows the compiler to check that all your variable types are declared properly. You must always use implicit none at the start of every program. Well, kada program gid nga isabis kan mag-computation, kinahanglan mi ara gid sa implicit none. Diri ni sa napunta lang being implicit none, antes ka magsukod sa execution mo, may ara ka dapat implicit none. Okay? The third is comment in Fortran are stated with exclamation mark. Kinahanglan may ara kung mag-comment kagani sa isa ka code, may ara ka exclamation mark. All characters after this except in characters string are ignored by the compiler. Okay na ka mag-comment kasi isa ka code, basta may ara sa exclamation mark. Hindi mo na sa Japon i-ignore mo na sa Japon sang aton nga compiler kung paano ta na-run ang isa ka program. Okay? The print. Okay, the print and the asterisk character. Command displays the data on the screen. Amo ni sa kung paano magparan print gali kay ang asterisk. In Indentation of code lines is good practice for keeping a program readable. Fortran allows both uppercase and lowercase letters. Fortran is a case insensitive except for string literals. Bali, ang Fortran, kung may ara ka binalipat kabi ang sa code dapat bi dako na sa letter. Di galing nabutang mo letter Z nga gamay may all dako ang letter Z dapat Z nga gamay. Okay na sa Japan kay ang isa ka Fortran nga language is a case and insensitive. Bali do hindi siya ano daw nang marit pa sa Japan biskan na mismong isa ka code nga pero check dapat ng ano lang ng do ka hindi gid na ano ng lala or hindi isa ma-error gid. Basta readable lang isaya. Okay, ng the basics, well, I just have ng ano na ni na ano ko na ni na natakot ko na niya ni kagina pero okay, ano ko na lang liwat. The letters A to Z ang sa mga ano na character ni dapat nga mabalaan ta artist na mag-code. Next is okay, the identifier. Identifier is a name used to identify a variable, procedure, or any other user-defined item. A name in Fortran must follow the following rules. Among ilis ang rules nga dapat. Ang pinaka-importante nga rules. It cannot be longer than 31 characters. Bali, hindi pwede ka padamo sa characters. Bali, 31 lagi amo na galing nga hapos lang isa to ng Fortran kay hindi ka magitod ka padamo. Pero, dasig siya. It must be composed of alphanumeric characters or letters of the alphabet and the digits 0 to 9 and underscore. First character of the name must be a letter. Ang first nga character mo ay butang sa code dapat letter. And lastly is names are case insensitive. Well, and I'm just my national happily to teach you and I'm gonna assign this for my classmate. The next slide is the advantages and disadvantages. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Prince Region Igarilva, and today I'm presenting you the advantages and disadvantages of Fortran. So, what are the advantages of Fortran programming language? And here's some of the advantages of Fortran. First one is Fortran supports numerical analysis and scientific computation. Fortran supports numerical analysis and scientific computation. Fortran supports generic and structured programming. Fortran supports array and modular programming. And it's also high-end performance, object-oriented programming, extremely optimized for the vectorization. Fortran is also readable and easy to understand, and it's also very fast in scientific computing. Fortran is readable and easy to understand because it's the primary language that was used in programming, in computing calculations, and for business, and for something, and it's also very fast in scientific computing, meaning when you compute something in a scientific way, it can be very fast at performing, and these are the advantages of Fortran. So this is the advantages of Fortran. Until Fortran 90/95, the language
Wait
was...
lang! Ano ni?
Then, here are the advantages of Fortran. Up till now, Fortran 90/95, the language was primarily intended for calculations. It remains one of the best computational languages ever developed, and it is still in heavy use in the financial industry, meaning Fortran is 90/95, and the language, and this type of language was primarily used for calculate, magsuma sa mga sweldo, sa mga presyo sa sa mga prices ka mga products, something like that, and it remains one of the best computational languages ever developed. Meaning naman na niya, ang Fortran amo nang pinaka the best gamiton like I said, magsuma sa mga mga sweldo, mga presyo, mga para sa magano sang bills ng kuryente, mga. However, due in large part in disagreements among members of the Fortran development groups, Fortran 77 was deficient in a number of areas. Most or all these have since been addressed by Fortran 90/95. However, so they do not represent current language deficiencies. These limitations included poor string handling, including wake, concatenation, and length functions. Subroutines pass arguments by reference rather than by value, making data protection difficult. So number 2, data scoping is limited. Variables can either be local or common blocks, but no other scoping is allowed. As a result, it's not possible to write file-level procedures. Shared logic must be in a separate subroutine or repeated via cloning. Loop controls are somewhat limited, requiring continued use of the go-to statement to manage flow in some cases. So, ang Fortran may limitations sa paggamit. Kaya nga, kay poor string handling siya, meaning hindi siya bakod nga gamiton. Hindi siya sure kung siya. Wala assurance, kumbaga. And instead nga reference sa value, kag magimo sang kag difficult siya kag mabudlayan kita sa mag-imo sang data protection kay siya kumbaga subroutines na siya lamlaw ginagamit lang siya kisa. So that's it. Thank you so much. So that's all. Thank you very much.